Every generation believes it's living through unprecedented chaos. But history has a cruel sense of humor, because the chaos we fear today has happened before. 1,000 years ago, England faced foreign threats, political division, economic collapse, social distrust, misinformation, corruption, and fear. And at the center of it all stood a king almost nobody remembers. Æthelred the Unready. A king blamed for everything. A king surrounded by enemies, both foreign and domestic. A king ruling a society that looks disturbingly like ours. This isn't just a story about the past. It's a warning about the present. The beginning of the collapse came long before Æthelred ever sat on the throne. His reign is often mocked. He's remembered as weak, indecisive, incompetent. But the truth is far more complicated and far more relevant. He ruled a nation paralyzed by fear, divided by politics, manipulated by elites, overwhelmed by external threats, and collapsing from within. Sound familiar? Today, we see governments inheriting broken systems, leaders blamed for problems they didn't create, and societies so divided that no decision satisfies anyone. Æthelred didn't break England. He inherited a nation already cracking, and he inherited it as a child thrown into a storm. Æthelred became king at 12 years old after the suspicious murder of his older brother. The kingdom immediately split into factions. Some blamed the nobles. Some blamed the queen. Some blamed foreign agents. Some blamed Æthelred himself. England began his reign already suspicious, already divided, already unstable. Imagine being 12, surrounded by ambitious nobles, manipulative advisors, foreign threats, and a grieving, angry population. He wasn't unready. He was set up. And just like today, when a society is already fractured, even the strongest leader looks weak. Leaders inherit crises they didn't create. Public anger lands on whoever is in charge, not whoever caused the problem. Æthelred walked into a fire that was already burning. The shadow that never left England came from across the sea. The Vikings weren't just raiders. They were the medieval equivalent of a superpower testing a weaker nation. They attacked coastal towns, monasteries, trade routes, undefended villages. They didn't just steal wealth, they stole stability. England lived in a constant state of fear. Rumors of raids spread like wildfire. Markets panicked. Families fled inland. Soldiers were stretched thin. Leaders argued instead of preparing. Fear changes a society. It makes people suspicious, divided, easily manipulated, desperate for simple answers. And fear is the easiest tool for political manipulation, then and now. Today, fear comes from terrorism, cyber attacks, geopolitical tension, economic uncertainty, social unrest. Fear doesn't unite. Fear fractures, and fractured societies make terrible decisions. Inside the throne room, the real poison was not the Vikings. It was the king's own advisors. Æthelred's nickname, Unready, didn't mean unprepared. It meant poorly advised. His advisors were not wise statesmen. They were power-hungry, divided, corrupt, self-interested, constantly plotting against each other. They fed the king misinformation, exaggerated threats, false promises, conflicting strategies. England lurched from one policy to another. Negotiate 1 year, attack the next, pay bribes, betray allies, switch advisors, reverse decisions. It was chaos disguised as leadership. And here's the uncomfortable parallel. Today, governments drown in contradictory information. Advisors push agendas instead of truth. Leaders are paralyzed by internal conflict. Decisions are made for optics, not outcomes. Æthelred wasn't indecisive. He was surrounded by people who made decisive action impossible. A divided leadership class creates a divided nation. Then came the moment the economy began to bleed. To stop Viking attacks, Æthelred paid enormous sums of silver, Danegeld. It was meant to buy peace. Instead, it bought more raids. Because once you pay a bully, you become a customer. England's economy buckled. Taxes soared. Silver reserves drained. Trade slowed. Inflation rose. Ordinary people suffered. The wealthy protected themselves. The poor paid the price. And here's the modern echo. Today, governments print money to solve crises, borrow to avoid hard decisions, and use short-term fixes to hide long-term problems. It worked for a while. Then the bill arrives. Æthelred's England lived in a constant state of economic firefighting, just like many nations today. But the most dangerous collapse wasn't military or economic. It was social. As the crises piled up, something more dangerous than Vikings emerged. England stopped believing in itself. People lost trust in the king, the nobles, the laws, the justice system, the army, the church, and each other. Once trust collapses, a society becomes ungovernable. Local leaders ignored the king. Some collaborated with the Vikings. Others hoarded wealth and power. Communities turned inward. National unity evaporated. And today, trust is collapsing again. Distrust in governments. Distrust in media. Distrust in institutions. Distrust in experts. Distrust in neighbors. A society without trust is a society waiting to fall. Æthelred watched his kingdom crumble not because he was weak, but because the social fabric had already torn. The final blow came when the Vikings returned with a full invasion force. England was divided, exhausted, economically broken, politically fractured, socially unstable. The Vikings didn't conquer a strong nation. They walked into a weakened one. Æthelred fled. The kingdom fell. A foreign ruler took the throne. But here's the twist. Historians now believe Æthelred wasn't the villain. He was the scapegoat. A man trying to hold together a society that had already given up on itself. His story isn't about failure. It's about what happens when a nation refuses to confront its problems until it's too late. And now comes the warning that echoes into our time. Æthelred's England teaches a brutal truth. Societies don't fall because of one leader. They fall because fear replaces unity, division replaces cooperation, short-term fixes replace long-term solutions. Elites fight while ordinary people suffer, trust collapses, and people stop believing in the system. The Vikings didn't destroy England. England destroyed itself. And the Vikings simply walked in. So when we look at our world today, the fear, the division, the mistrust, the uncertainty, maybe the story of Æthelred isn't ancient history. Maybe it's a warning that history doesn't repeat. But it rhymes, and the rhyme is getting louder.